Okay, so I'm coming at you from editing, and I just wanted to add a disclaimer that there's a lot of like awkward pauses and me losing my train of thought, and I wanted to let you know that the reason I sound so crazy, or the reason it sounds like I lost my freaking mind during this episode, is because my dogs were not behaving and they were driving me crazy and they needed to be disciplined a few times. So there's that. Thanks. Okay, hi. Yeah, I'm here. So thanks. Anyway, I'm so distracted because both my dogs are sitting down here and they're just staring at me and I don't know what they want. And I've tried so hard, but the show must go on. So I'm here once again, and before I get into the main topic, I'm gonna do like another couple of like mini opinions about some stuff that I've watched like the past couple weeks, honestly, and just am not doing a full episode on. So first, I've been getting more into, I've always been into documentaries, but I've been watching more of them more recently. So I watched Audrey and Daisy on Netflix, which is very upsetting. I went into it literally with I went into watching Audrey and Daisy with the intention of doing a full episode on that, because I was like, you know what, why not do, I swear to God, I'm going to kill this dog. No, I'm not. I love her. Anyway, I thought like, why not dabble in documentaries? And then I started watching it and I was like, it's so frustrating. I hate all of it. No, I don't. The whole thing just sucks so much. It's a shitty subject. The people involved are always treated, the survivors are always treated terribly for something that they didn't even want. Seriously, it's so frustrating. Like, I can barely even come up with the word. So in what world did I think I was going to be able to do a full episode talking about it? Because yeah, the more I started watching it, the farther I got into it, I just wanted to complain for hours. And I didn't think that would be like super productive or interesting for anyone to listen to. So I decided not to do that, but it is like well made. And if anyone that listens to this disagrees with my personal stance that you should always believe survivors, go watch this documentary and then explain yourself, because I just don't get it and I never will. Anyway, I just got my nails done today and I turn into the worst person when I have fresh nails because I'm so annoying. Like those fucking hell, the Instagram posts that circulated a while back where they say like, oh, if your girl's nails look like this, then she's probably crazy, or if they look like this, then she's probably really cool. I turn into like the crazy one because I just feel like so powerful, and I talk with my hands a lot, and I do like the little like chicken hand. I act like a girl who just got engaged because I just want to show them off. And so I'm legitimately getting distracted by my own nails. I wish I were different, but here we are. So next, I also watched a documentary called Tell Me Who I Am, and it's about these two twin brothers. The one gets into like a really bad accident and loses all of his memory. So he gets into this accident when he's 18, I think. And so his whole 18 years are gone. He remembers absolutely nothing except for the fact that he has a twin brother. And it starts off so interesting. The first half is like, I could not turn away. Like, I needed to find out what was going to happen. And then the second half is just drug out so long. Like, it really did not need to be as long as it was. So that was kind of a disappointment. But, I mean, no one's perfect. So then I also watched The Act with Joey King and Patricia Arquette on Hulu. That is honestly a 10 out of 10, and I would highly recommend. It's so fascinating. I remember when this happened in real life. And obviously, like, God, when was that? 5 years ago? As I've grown across the past 5 years, I've come to learn more about the actual story, and it's very interesting. And in all honesty, Joey King is kind of like everything nowadays. She is in like 7 different projects that are all like coming out at the same time. So very proud of her. She honestly deserves all recognition. I've seen her in a lot of stuff, like starting from when she was younger. Like, never forget her role in New Girl. Like, that's a staple. But watching her in The Kissing Booth versus watching her in The Act are 2 completely different humans and skill sets. And I mean, like, The Kissing Booth itself kind of sets it up to be like, is anybody really trying, you know? But I'm glad that she also has more serious projects so that she can show off her range. And girl, get yours. I rewatched The Kissing Booth recently because my mom hadn't seen it. And so we watched it together, and it's not great. I mean, like, I have so many feelings about it because is it worth watching? Sure. Is it so completely ridiculous? Yes. Do I have 100 opinions? Absolutely. Does anyone want to hear them? I don't think so, because I'm really just going to start it off right here. Noah Flynn needed to be recast. I have nothing specific against that actor, but it didn't work. It didn't work then. It does not work for me now. The first time I watched it, I didn't like him in that role. The most recent time I watched it, I didn't like it. They obviously, like, in real life, he's like an attractive guy. That's the whole point. But for them to like make the whole story is set around him being like the hottest guy in school. And I'm like, honestly, I disagree. It's not great. And then also, physically, they look crazy together because he's like 7 feet tall and she's like 5'2", and it looks like comparatively she's like a toddler standing next to him. And it's just, they just weren't all great choices, unfortunately. And then we were gonna watch The Kissing Booth 2, and that shit is 2 hours and 12 minutes. I'm sorry. For what purpose? What else needs to be said for 2 hours? I don't know what it is. Like, I guess when I was younger, I always thought that movies were like super long. Now that I'm older and I understand like the concept of time, I realize movies really didn't used to be that long. Like, the majority of movies are like an hour and a half, hour 45. And I think I've also just come to realize that there are very few reasons to make a movie that long. And The Kissing Booth 2, I still haven't watched it because I just can't bring myself to make that kind of investment. Like, in my mind, any movie that's over 2 hours, I always kind of like associate with like award level, like Oscar nominees, like some sort of like, you have things to say, you have points to make, there are lessons to be learned based off of some kind of daunting true story. And The Kissing Booth 2, in my mind, is not it, Chief. I feel as though they have some type of gall making that decision. But all of that aside, I do love Joey King, and I am very proud of her and very happy for the success that she is having right now. Now that BS is taken care of, let's get into the topic of today's discussion is the film No Good Deed. The movie No Good Deed came out in 2014. When it first came out, I wanted to see it so bad. I'm obsessed with psycho thrillers. They're my favorite invention. Anything that makes you feel kind of crazy is like what I live for. And so when this came out, especially with Idris Elba, yes, please. When this first came out, I wanted to see it so bad. And then my mother decided to watch it by herself without me, and I felt very disrespected. And then I ended up watching it by myself like 3 times after that, because like, why not, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I guess like I keep trying to like switch up genres and do different kinds, and I feel like the ones I've uploaded more recently have been more like lighthearted and stuff, so I wanted to do something a little creepier. So yeah, and this is pretty much a go-to of mine, along with Gone with Amanda Seyfried. That movie I saw it in the theaters. I saw it after I came out of theaters. It was on Hulu recently, and I watched it like 4 times in 1 week because it's just that good. Maybe that will come at a later date. Anyway, yeah, No Good Deed. I'm like gonna go crazy. No Good Deed came out in 2014. How many times can I say that? First of all, some of the people who submit IMDb plot summaries need to be checked. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. So the one that I'm going to go with says an unstable escaped convict terrorizes a woman who is alone with her 2 children. So the escaped convict is Idris Elba. The poor woman at home with her kids is played by Taraji P. Henson. She has done so many great things. She will continue to do great things. So we open on Idris Elba in his little convict van, and they're driving to his parole hearing. While they're driving to his parole hearing, there's like a news coverage playing over, and they explain to us that Colin Evans, played by Idris Elba, is currently in prison for voluntary manslaughter. However, he is also suspected to be linked with the disappearance and what's the freaking word? They're presumed. Okay. He is thought of to be connected to the disappearance and presumed murder of 5 girls. I guess none of them have been found. All of them are presumed dead, but I don't think we know for sure. So basically, everybody thinks that he killed all these girls, but nobody could prove it. So when they went to trial, all they tried him for was voluntary manslaughter because he beat up somebody in a bar. And so he got 10 to 15 years, and he has served 5 up to this point, so now he's up for parole. They're driving him to his hearing, and the bus driver is like, "Hey man, I hope you get out. I hope you go pay your debt to society." Excuse you. First of all, that's not really your choice to make. Second of all, and I'm like, he really didn't pay his debt to society because he was sentenced to 10 to 15 years. And he's only served 5. And, see, it's so difficult because in real life, somebody who doesn't suck as bad as Colin as a person could have rehabilitated in that period of time if things happened the way that he claims they did, which is he basically just like got super angry and made a mistake. But he's just not like a good person. So he specifically shouldn't get paroled. Anyway, they're at the parole hearing. He gets up and he gives his little speech about how he is a great person. He teaches other inmates how to do things. He teaches them how to read and write. He is a productive member of society behind bars, and he is trying to spread his program to other places behind bars. And I'm like, dude, are you really trying to say that no other prison system has any kind of like curriculum where they like teach people how to read and write? Like, are you acting like you invented teaching prisoners how to do things? But we do find out that he's like an extreme narcissist, so that does make sense. And I mean, obviously I'm not a parole board member. I've never been to a parole meeting, but from having watched Shawshank Redemption, I feel as though you going in there and trying to tell the parole board members, hey, I've changed and I'm better, doesn't really bode well. Like, I don't think that that's actually what they want to hear, because it sounds too much like what you think they want to hear. But that's what he does, because he's trying so hard to woo these people and be like, no, like, I'm actually fully rehabilitated. I have corrected myself. I have changed myself. And I've learned from my mistakes. And this guy, I find out later, is called Dr. Ross, shoots him down so hard. He's like, actually, I did my research on you, sir, and you're a, quote, malignant narcissist, which means you just hate when you don't get your way, like a literal toddler. And the reason you killed this guy at the bar is because he was flirting with your girlfriend and you got pissy like a toddler. And you can see Colin physically steaming at these like negative reviews from Dr. Ross. And it's so funny because, I mean, no, it's really not funny because he's not a good person. But it's funny for me because everything about narcissists is that they have to be right. Everything has to be according to them. They are obsessed with themselves. And just to sit there and watch him get shit on is so satisfying. And then he has like a little outburst where he's like, oh, stop, that's not. And they're like, dude, you kind of outed yourself. Like, you let your own cat out of its bag. So basically, in Tennessee, where they are right now, to get paroled, the vote has to be unanimous. And obviously, Dr. Ross is a hard no. So they're like, sorry, guy, we'll see you again in 5 years and try it. So, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, Dr. Ross is like, absolutely no, I'm not interested. He basically roasted Colin alive. Like, he served up a fresh plate of fuck Colin. And then I guess like the head of the board was like, eek. Sorry. We'll see you in 5 years. So he didn't get what he wanted. And the little van driver is super upset. And the guard who's sitting in the back with Colin is like, well, sucks to suck, doesn't it? So they're driving back and he pretends to have a nosebleed. He's like playing the freaking violin for himself so hard because he made his own nose start bleeding, or something's blood came from somewhere. And he's like, seriously, guy, like, you're not even gonna give me a band, like, can you help me out a little bit? And I'm like, he doesn't really want to, but I guess that is like technically his job. So the guard goes over and tries to give him like a band-aid or like a tissue or something, but then Colin headbutts him and steals his gun and is holding him with a gun against his head. And then the van driver is like, oh man, I thought you were cool. But he was wrong the whole time, unfortunately. He's like, hey, if you just put your weapon down, y'all can skippity-doo out of here, and I'll just go my separate way. Because it's not like you'll be coming after me to take me back into custody as a prisoner that is also going to generate new charges. So then the van driver is like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, we both should survive. So then he puts his gun down and Colin's like, fuck both of you, shoots them both in the head, and they're gone. After we kind of sum up his origin story, we flash on over to Terry, played by Taraji P. Henson, and she is in her house and she's just trying to take care of her kids. Her house is being remodeled right now. Her husband is a trash bag. I'll deal with him later. She is just trying. She has a newborn. That might be a stretch. She has a baby who was born recently. She has an older kid. She's just trying to do her life. You know, she is a full, a full stay-at-home mom is the phrase. So that's what she does. And especially now that, like, the house is being oh my God. Yeah, now that the house is being renovated, she has to, like, oversee all of that stuff. And it's so dramatic. Okay, this guy Javier, who's like the head of the renovations, like the foreman, I guess you would say, comes in and he goes, a storm's coming. And I'm like, dude, it's not really like writing department. Is that where we had to go with that? But he has to let, you know, the family know in the most dramatic way possible, a storm's coming. And we should all take shelter. So they clean up their shit. They go home for the day. Her BFF Meg stops by. I think she like lives nearby. So she's like on her daily jog and she stops by and is trying to hang out. Terry mentions that Jeffrey, her husband, is going away because it's his dad's birthday. So they're going golfing. So Meg is like, oh, well, why don't we have like a girls' night? I'll totally come back over and we'll hang out and have so much fun and drink wine. And Meg sends a lot of digs towards Jeffrey and says repeatedly that he doesn't deserve Terry. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But Terry is the classic, like, oh, stop. He's my husband. He's cool. I'm like, blah. I'm just taking care of my kids. Like, I'm a housewife. So I guess, like, she thinks that she deserves her husband being mean to her and, like, not giving her attention ever. Excuse him? Because did she not just provide you with 2 human beings out of her body? So yeah, I do think that he should be a lot nicer to her. He comes home from work and is sitting on his phone the whole time. Terry goes up to give him a hug and he literally pushes her away and says, ew, because she has like a baby spit up. And I'm like, excuse the fuck out of you. She sits at home 24/7 taking care of your children while you go off and act like you're not married. And you have the audacity to push her away? Oh, something that also needs to be addressed. Their house. We find out that he's a lawyer. She is also a lawyer, but like not working right now, obviously, because she's a stay-at-home mom. And their house looks like a spa retreat. Like, it looks like a 10-star hotel. Like, the grand staircase. Their kitchen is honestly the size of like the first floor of my house. But I mean, like, they have good careers, I guess. It's just, it's so absurd to me. I don't know, like, me being an adult and, like, having finances and shit, how do people sustain these lives, these lifestyles? But they do. So then they're still talking about this stupid golf retreat that he's going on with his dad for his birthday, and she is trying to be nice to him once again, and he's like knocking her for being concerned, and like, especially because a storm's coming. We all found out, and apparently where he's going to play golf is 2 hours away. She's like, do you really need to like make that drive? And he says yeah, because he's a man and he'll be cool and he can take care of himself. And I'm like, congrats, you idiot. If I were forced to compare him to something, just so you can kind of get a more well-rounded idea of what we're talking about, I would equate him to that of like a dented rim on your tire. Because from the outside, it looks acceptable. Like, you don't necessarily know that there's anything wrong with it. He wears his fancy clothes because he's a lawyer. He dresses business. But then as time goes on, your tire starts losing air and you realize like, oh, no, we don't like this. Oh no, that needs to be fixed. So that's where I have him on my ladder of society. After that, we find Colin has a vehicle. He stole a car. He stole somebody's clothes and is stalking his ex in Georgia. So he started in Tennessee. That's where he was supposed to be getting paroled. And he got himself to Georgia. I don't actually know how far away those are from each other, so I'm Googling it. Oh, okay. They like border each other, so I guess it just depends on what area of each state. But yeah, so he starts in Tennessee, he's in Georgia, he's stalking his ex, and it's like not a good look. She's talking to this guy, he gets super pissy about it because he's like, oh my god, well, why didn't you wait for me? And she's like, you literally got sentenced to be in prison for 10 to 15 years. I was just supposed to twiddle my damn thumbs for 10 to 15 years? Girl could die in that time span. But no, he doesn't actually confront her at this point. So he's just lurking from afar. She gets home and he blitzes her, not physically. He mentally blitzes her and is like, hey, remember me? And she has to like pretend that she likes him still because she doesn't want him to hurt her. And she knows how fragile his ego is. And so she's trying to play into it. Like, oh my god, no, I do totally still love you. And I just didn't know what to say to all of your hundreds of letters that you've sent me over the past 5 years. Like, dude, take a hint. Maybe you're just not that cool or interesting to talk to. 5 years. She never once responded. Maybe you're the problem, Colin. But he's not capable of thinking that way. So then, things get physical, and he brings up that he found a receipt to like flowers somebody had sent her to like that, and then the note that said like, I didn't want to wake you because you look so beautiful when you sleep. So then he's like, obviously you're lying because you're doing stuff with other people. So then things get physical. They end up upstairs. She was trying to run away. She was wearing like 5-inch heels. So unfortunately she was not successful. And then he starts throwing a tantrum and is like, oh my god, did you have sex with people in our bed? Obviously. that is where she has lived for the past 5 years without you. She was probably hoping to never see you again. You were supposed to be in jail for an additional 10 years from this day. So, yeah, she moved on, buddy boy. And at first, she's like trying to not piss him off, but then she's like, dude, if you're gonna act crazy, then same. So she's like, you know what? Yeah, I do have an active life. What's it to you? So he like loses his mind and physically beats her to death, and it's like not pretty. This movie is rated PG-13. I don't think that I mentioned that in the beginning. I don't necessarily think it should be, because I would say that things get kind of graphic, like him beating her to death. But, I mean, it's not my job to rate these things. And so, during the struggle, her cell phone falls out of her pocket and lands under the bed. And that foreshadows that we will see it again. So, cut to Terry is back at her house. I think the little baby is sleeping upstairs. She's trying to cook dinner for her daughter. And we see that Colin wrecks his car. He drives straight into a tree trunk and makes it out with literally like a paper cut on his forehead. Still able to walk and everything. And he basically accordions this car in half. But he's fine. So he hikes up the old bootstraps and is walking around town, and the first house he stumbles upon is Terry's. So it's like downpouring. He goes up to her house to try and ask for help. She gives him the phone. He's like trying super hard to make her think that he's okay. He's like, oh my god, like, I'll stand out here the whole time. Just give me your phone. I won't even come in your house and whatever. And so she's like, all right, dude, like, I got it. Just call your freaking tow truck. And she says that her husband is coming home, which we know is not true, but in her self-preservation, she's trying to make sure that he knows that she's not going to be alone forever, and like if he has any ill intentions, that it's going to be tampered with, I guess, because somebody's gonna come home and find out. So then he calls the tow truck, and he pretends there's no tow truck, obviously, and says he's just going to sit on the patio and wait for it. And her being the loving woman that she is, she's too caring for other people, and she's a mom. She has that sympathy. She's like, dude, I don't want you to have to sit out here in the pouring rain. You have a cut on your forehead, which was blown vastly out of proportion. If you're going to have an entire plot line, not a whole plot line, but like an entire blip in the script centered around this cut, like, make it a fucking cut. Gash it open. Give him some blood. They make it extra. They do too much. But so they like dab it with a napkin a couple of times, and then he's healed. And she invites him inside. She puts his clothes in the dryer because she's trying to be nice to him. And it's so difficult because, like, just don't be nice. Be nice to people, but you do not have to go that far out of your way. You have 2 young children in the house with you by yourself. You know that your husband's not coming home. Put yourself first, girlfriend, and say, hey, have fun waiting for your tow truck out here. Next time, don't drive into a tree. Which, obviously, she can't blame on him. Oh my god. Am I an idiot Did he? No. Was the car he was driving? I just thought for a second, like, oh, the car he was driving was probably his prison escort van. But that would actually be really stupid of him to do that. Because they could very easily track it. So, I'm going to take that back. So she's being very hospitable and is trying to make sure that he doesn't just die on her patio. And and also, like, I don't know, okay. He uses his real name when he's talking to her, which I thought was very bold because it sounded as if his legal issues were widely known. Like, the way the news reports on it, it makes it sound like his crimes were a huge news story. So, and they're both lawyers. I feel like it would not be crazy to think that she might have heard about him before this. And then she says that when she was working as a lawyer, she was a prosecutor in the DA's office, specifically against men who used to domestically abuse their people, like partners or family, whatever. And it's actually so funny because he's trying to get like info, like, oh, like that's what you used to do, like how'd you catch people, and oh, like that must have been really interesting. And she's like, actually no, because people who do that are usually stupid and they're not clever and they make a lot of mistakes. And I'm like, girl, you are adding him so hard and she doesn't even know it. And you can see his blood boiling because he cannot stand to be disrespected in that way. So during all of that, she is saved because her car alarm starts going off. Something's like broken. Car alarms go off during storms, which I've never understood in my entire life. But I guess that's a thing. And then like hers is broken. So she's trying to turn it off and it's not happening. And then he's like, oh, I'll help you because I'm a cool person. And so then they both go out to the car and try to fix it. And the only reason I'm even mentioning this is because it comes back later. So they fix the thing and then Meg shows up because they were supposed to have girls' night. Oh no. Okay, so they stop the alarm and then they go back inside. And she's like, hey, just so you know, I actually lied about my husband coming home, and he's like actually not coming home tonight. And he's like, oh, really? Like, he sounds like disappointed by that. I'm like, huh, that's a peculiar way to respond. So then Meg shows up because they're supposed to have their girls' night. And Terry is trying to explain this, but as we've seen in movies time and time again, no matter how much you try to explain a very unfortunate looking situation, sometimes it just can't happen. So she's explaining that like he crashed his car, and Meg's like, she's like, whatever, I don't even care where he came from. He's super hot. Let's pump him up with wine and see where the night will take us. She's like, Terry, you're married, not me. Let's go. And he tells them that he lives on a street nearby. And Meg is a realtor. And she's like, oh my God, I actually know every single person who lives on that street. That's so crazy. So where do you live? Because I don't know you. And then, because of the storm, a tree branch like breaks in through the kitchen window. So then Colin's like, for you, and wipes the sweat off his brow one last time. Because then he got out of the blah, blah, blah. He got out of having to answer that impossible question. But Meg is like super bold. Like, she is loud and proud of who she is. And honestly, good for you. But it's super awkward because you're like hardcore coming on to him in Terry's house. And he's just like sitting there. He chugs like 2 full glasses of wine and is like barely answering any questions and is just being really weird. And he has like a stone face the entire time. And Meg asks them if like Terry and Colin knew each other before this night. And Colin says yes, but Terry says no. And I'm like, I don't really get the game that you're trying to play here, buddy. Because I don't think it's like working out for you. But then Terry has to like run upstairs, I think, and he decides to go have a smoke out in the garage, and Meg decides to go join him. And while they're out there, she's trying to like collect all this info out of him, and he's giving her all fake answers, obviously. Well, I mean, not necessarily. She asks all these questions, but he just doesn't say anything. So she's like, are you guys like doing stuff? And he just kind of like makes a face, but he's silent. And so she's like, oh my God, are you serious? And he's like, And then he's like, yeah, like she didn't want you to find out this way. And she was embarrassed to tell you. And I came over here because I knew Jeffrey wasn't going to be here. And she's pretending to buy it for a second, but then she's like, actually, just kidding, because you're stupid. And she's my best friend, and she wouldn't hide that from me. So I actually know that you're full of crap, and I can't wait to expose it. And like, he's a physically large person. So as I believe, Meg has all the right in the world to express her issues and to tell him off and be like, fuck you, because he is 100% in the wrong. If you are alone with just like you and your best friend and 2 children, like, don't poke the bear right this second. Like, just hold out for a little bit. And then when you guys win and he's on trial for some new ass charges, then you can roll up to the witness stand and be like, fuck you. Have your day. But girl's bold. So she told him to his face right then and there. And she starts to walk back inside, and she's like trying to gather Terry and be like, girl, we got some issues. He picks up a shovel and kills her, and then just walks back into Terry's house and waits for her. So then when Terry comes back, she's like, oh my God, where's Meg? And he's like, oh, she just left, actually. It was like so crazy. So then Terry's like, oh, okay, that's kind of odd. But then she realizes that he's lying because her umbrella is still by the front door. So then Terry was like, oh, was she like upset when she left? Maybe I should like try to talk to her. So then she pretends that she's gonna go call Meg, and she knows that like something's wrong. So then she's actually trying to call for help, but the phone lines are cut. And then she tries to get any of her knives, and they're all missing. And I would like to know when he had the time to do all of this. But phone lines are cut, knives are all missing, her power ends up going out, but then it comes back like 5 seconds later. So I don't know if that's a storm or if he's just being stupid. But either way, he's showing his true colors. So Terry knows that, like, obviously things aren't great. She goes up to check on her kids, of course. Checks the little baby, he's fine, sleeping away. And she goes to check in on her daughter, Ryan, and Colin's in there, like, tossing her around, trying to have a good old time. And she's like, dude, this is, like, super not cool. So please leave. And, like, we'll call it. Call it a day. We're good. So she puts Ryan back to bed, and as they're leaving, she picks up a fire extinguisher and tries to, like, she sprays him and then beats him over the head, and he falls down the stairs. So then she tries to, like, gather her children, but then literally 2 seconds later, Colin's, like, standing behind her, like, you thought. So it's just so frustrating. So then after that, he pulls out the gun and he's like, listen, I'm not going to be as cool as I used to be. So let's get things going. He's, like, super pissy because he has, like, fire extinguisher ash on him. So he makes them both go shower together, which was honestly really dramatic. Then after that, I'm like, it's literally downpouring. Just walk outside. But it's the psychological part because he's crazy. I know. Anyway, they finish up their shower and he tells her to go change her clothes, and she's trying to be discreet because in that kind of situation, like, she has no idea what his motives are. She has no idea why he's there, what the plan is. He could be there to have his whole way with her. We don't know. So she's trying to, stay as far away as possible, like, not give him any type of idea that she's interested, and, like, hide herself. And he obviously tells her not to. He's like, no, come back over here, do it here. And she tells him not to do what most of us are thinking he's going to do. And his response is, don't flatter yourself. Who in the hell do you think you are? That is so disrespectful. Listen, everybody's relieved that those are not his intentions. Everyone. You have a sigh of relief. Thank God that's not what he's planning on doing. But you were making all these comments about how beautiful she was earlier. You force her into a shower with you. You tell her to change right in front of you. And then you put her down even farther. And, like, she obviously already has her own issues, like, especially with her marriage and stuff. You decide to knock her down even more? I'm like, that really is just fucked up. Like, you just don't have to say those things. Like, just don't say it at all. Or better yet, don't commit crimes. And then none of us would be here. So she's like, honestly, fuck you. And he's like, what? She's like, you heard me. I said, fuck you. And I'm like, yes, girl. Tell him, do not take prisoners. If he's going to be a dick, then you be a bigger dick. So she is trying with everything inside of her, everything inside of this house, to knock him out, to finish off the job, grab her kids, and go. But he just fucking regenerates every time. He's basically a freaking robot who's like, sorry, you're not done with me yet. And, like, in that, yeah, I understand in that moment, your first instinct is neutralize the threat and flee. But you know that he has a gun. You know that he has survived your attempts already. Like, finish the freaking job. If he's on the ground and you have something to just keep hitting, like, you have to do what you have to do. So she hits him, he falls down, he gets back up, and she stabs him, and then he falls down. And she's trying to get her kids. Like, she literally is just trying to pack up her kids and drive away into the freaking sunset. Leave Jeffrey behind. I think everyone's better off that way. But then Colin's like, joke's on you because I was actually prepared for this the whole time. He's like, get your kids and let's go. She packs up her children. They start to make their way out. She sees Meg's body in the garage. And this is kind of like her first insight into what exactly she's dealing with, because she didn't know exactly how crazy he was or how shitty he could be, but she knows that he killed Meg at this point. So things really just aren't going okay. So they're driving away, and she drives past the wreckage scene from his car accident. And he's like, don't even think about it. Like, dude, calm down. Her kids are in the car. Like, she cares more about them than you at this point. Like, he's such a brat. I can't stand him. But then as they're still driving down the road, there's a cop coming from the opposite direction. And she notices that Colin stops looking up for a second. He closes his eyes. He's in like pain or whatever because she stabbed him. And I'm like, you brought it upon yourself. Like, don't act like a baby now. So he's not paying attention. So she flashes her high beams at this cop to like try and get his attention. And I'm like, yes, girl, be creative. Keep trying, you know, come up with solutions. You have to do what you have to do. So the cop catches on, flips around, pulls her over, and Colin picks up the little baby out of the car seat and is like, this is your motivation to be good still. Because if you say anything bad, or if you fuck this up, then like I literally have your baby boy in my hands. So obviously she's like, dude, I'm trying, you know, like she's doing her freaking best. And he lets it slip. He goes, I hope that my APB didn't cross state lines. And that's her first insight into like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? What APB? What did you do? Who's looking for you and why? And now she's really like, oh my God, what am I in the middle of? Like, what have I gotten myself into? So the cop comes up, asks for her documentation. Ryan, the daughter, is in the back seat saying like, where's dad? I want to go home. And the cop is like questioning because they look like a full family right there. So he's like, well, where is her dad? And he starts to catch on that things aren't cool. So he pulls Terry out of the car and brings her back. But Colin rolls the window down, so he's listening to everything. And the cop's like, hey, could you explain yourself? Like, where is your kid's dad? Who's that guy? And I'm like, guy, she flagged you down. Her daughter is asking for help, essentially. She is very obviously distressed. She continues, throughout this entire conversation with the cop, continues to look back at the car because she knows that Colin's in there alone with her kids. And he's like, why do you keep looking back there? Who's that guy? And so she's trying so hard to make it sound okay. And she's like, oh, well, like, things aren't great with my husband. And so then he starts, like, condemning her. Like, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't do that in front of your kids. I'm like, dude, sharpen up your skills. It's red flag freaking city. It is a red flag sale. They're all over the freaking place. Just pick one. Pick any of them. And he asks another question. Or no, I think he, like, asks why she keeps looking at the car. And she's like, oh, I can't really say it right now. And he's like, oh, okay. And he finally freaking wisens up. I'm like, dude, go back to the academy. Go back to school somewhere. But Colin's pissed because he's eavesdropping on the conversation. So he just pops on out and shoots the cop. And then he goes, Terry, this is actually your fault. So good job. And I'm like, dude, like, I can't. In his mind, he legitimately thinks that everything he's doing is justifiable. And it is fascinating. So he dumps the cop's body down this hill and makes Terry keep driving. And they end up at his ex's house where her dead body currently is. Still. So Terry goes and puts her kids in a bedroom and basically says, like, stay here. I hope we'll all end up okay. Because genuinely nobody knows. But he's still currently bleeding because she stabbed him a bunch of times. So he's like, hey, let's head on upstairs and look for a first aid kit so then you can bandage me up, and then honestly, who knows what the plan is. So she goes into this bathroom. She is taken very by surprise when she sees this body. It takes her a little while to collect herself, as I hope it would take any person a while to collect yourself after seeing a dead body. But then her car alarm starts going off again. See, I told you I brought it up for a reason. So her car alarm's going off, and Colin's freaking out because he's like, if we don't shut it up soon enough, somebody's going to pay attention and somebody's going to want to know why it's still going off. So he ties her up with gauze or felt, I don't know. He ties her up with something that is evidently painful because she complains about it, but like I would also complain about it too. I'm on Terry's side throughout this whole thing. I need to make sure that that's clearly stated. So he ties her up, she's laying on the floor, and he runs outside to try and fix her car. Alexis's cell phone starts ringing from under the bed. I told you that was important. So she's like, fuck yes. There's a broken glass probably left over from the lamp that he used to beat Alexis to death. And she cuts off her bandages and answers the phone. And she answers the phone, and it's stupid Jeffrey. Like, Alexis, where are you? I've been at the hotel forever and I'm waiting for you. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? And he's like, wait, Terry? And then she's like, call the cops, you bag of fleas. You're so stupid and I hate you forever. Not a direct quote. So she's fuming. Not only has her whole night gotten fucked up, not only did she lose her best friend in the midst of trying to save her two small children, but then she finds out it's because her stupid husband can't keep his freaking pants up. So she's coming back with a vengeance. She goes into the room where the kids are, and she like throws a little like Rapunzel sheet rope out the window and pretends that they ran away. So when Colin comes back, he's like, oh no, they ran away. But she's like, joke's on you, loser. I was lying. So he leaves to try and like chase her down a street. So then she like collects her and her kids again, and she goes downstairs. I don't know necessarily if she's trying to leave or if she's just trying to like hide more permanently. But so she puts her kids in a closet, and because she realizes that he's coming back, and then she goes and takes a knife and is hiding upstairs to wait for him to come back so she can fight him to the death. She's like, I really just can't at this point. Like, I dare you to come fight me. So she's hiding upstairs, and she realizes that he's like headed down the hall to where her kids are. So she lures him upstairs because her kids are first and foremost, because she is a caring mother. And they fight some more. She stabs him a whole bunch of times, and he is like tossing her around, and his gun gets knocked away at some point, and she ends up, while he's tossing her around like the dickhole he is, she ends up on the floor next to his gun. And I'm like, joke's on you, buddy, because you just killed yourself. So she starts shooting at him, and Terminator's still fucking going. He is like shot after shot, like, oh, this actually only makes me stronger. But then something I also take issue with is they obviously use like those little vests for the sake of filming that like explode under his shirt, that create the like blood and effect of him being shot. And it's just not hidden well. So that is unfortunate, but whatever. still gets the job done. So she is like, I am honestly trying so hard. Like, what else do I have to do to get rid of you forever? So she empties the freaking clip into this guy's body and then also throws him out the second story window. And then he just like lands on the ground. And she told Jeffrey to call the cops, but his like 2 IQ points were still trying to figure out what was happening, because why would she have Alexis's phone? And so she gets her kids. This is all she wants at this point. Like, she just wants to cuddle up with her kids. Girlfriend deserves a good night's sleep. Send her to a spa. Send her back to that fanciest house by herself. Get a bath. The things that she has been put through in the last, I don't even know how long. The movie is 1 hour and 22 minutes, which is not very much. So she goes downstairs. The cops are all there, obviously. Jeffrey shows up, and he just looks like a child who is in like elementary school, but is just physically large. His clothes don't make sense. He looks like an idiot. And he's like acting like he's coming to her rescue. He's like, no, man, that's my wife. Let me in. And she's like, I'm good without you. I don't actually want you in here. And he has the freaking balls to try and say, oh, I'm sorry, it didn't mean anything. Dude, she has blood all over her face and clothes. She has been put through the freaking ringer because you wanted to have sex with other people. And the fact that you're sitting here trying to win her back? I am continuously shocked by men and the audacity that they seem to have. Like, I wish that any young female was raised to have that kind of self-esteem, because we would legitimately run this fucking world where he thinks like this entire movie is because of his infidelity. His entire family could have been murdered because he decided to have an affair. And he's sorry? You should be. You should be sorry. Oh my God. You're not special for saying you're sorry. I hate him. And she has had enough. So then she hits him. I thought she slapped him, but the IMDb synopsis says that she punches him. She should have done both. Girlfriend, live your life. Get your vengeance, because he deserves it. So after that, we cut to her new life. Terry has had a fresh blowout in her hair. She is looking fresh as a freaking daisy. She is dressed for success. She is ready to kill the professional field. She has this new house. It is like a 5-story colonial. Honestly, looks like it could be a museum. I don't know exactly where. I'm guessing Georgia, because that's where they were before. But she has a brand new house. She has her children. There's a nanny who's helping her out because she is back in the workforce and she's trying her hardest. And the nanny goes, oh, like I was going to go take the kids up to the park. And she goes, oh my God, I will walk with you as I walk over to the courthouse to put some fuckers away. Not a direct quote. And then that's it. And these are really like the things that we need to be seeing. She was so badass front to back, and she learned to put herself first. Like in the beginning, Jeffrey, when he first comes to the house, basically says like, well, you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And she's like, yeah, I guess that's what I wanted. But like, for you to basically treat her like a maid while she sits at home all day, every day, taking care of your kids, and then you don't even want to touch her because she has a baby on her, that's not what she wanted. So don't get it twisted. And so now she can live the life that she wanted, and hopefully Jeffrey's far away. He should have no type of custody because he put their entire lives in danger, and I would be in court day after day to fight for Terry's rights. These are the stories we need to hear. We need inspiration for young ladies, and especially young ladies of color. Like, she is so powerful. She gives a big ol' fuck you to everyone who wrongs her. And she still comes out A-okay. Not A-okay, obviously she's going to have some things to deal with, but like, she comes out stronger than ever. She has her kids. She has her life back. God bless Terry. And Taraji P. Henson for bringing her story to life. Something that I personally would like to address is the fact that I'm not saying this should have been nominated for any type of award. I'm not saying that it's Oscar worthy, but critics have kind of slept on No Good Deed, in my opinion. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 12%, and I think that's actually really disrespectful. And it's too defamatory. It's too much. They deserve better. But who am I to say? That's why I don't work for them. And that's why I just decide to sit here and spew my nonsense onto the internet. Yeah, it's like right up about 3 a.m. So I'm going to cut this. I don't think there's anything else to say. I mean, thanks for tuning in. Let other people know, I guess. I don't want to be that person, but it does make me feel cool to see like the analytics and to see the track of how many people they think are listening and how many plays each individual episode has. So this is something that I think is fun. And if there are other people out there who benefit, that's quite a statement. That's too broad. If there are people who enjoy listening as much as I enjoy recording, then I think that's like kind of cool. And okay, the moral of the story is I don't want to sit here and self-promote and like self-flagellate. I looked that up one time. I don't remember what it means. I don't want to like sit here and stroke my own back, but yeah, if you like this, tell other people about it, is basically the moral of the story. I have fun doing this. If you'd like to listen to it, make other people listen to it so that I have reason to continue to do this. Thanks so much. And yeah, I'm on social media, Instagram, Twitter. I don't really use it that much, to be honest. I don't even use my own personal social media accounts, TBH. But I do say all the time, I wish I were different, so maybe I'll change myself a little bit. And apparently iTunes like runs everything, which is so stupid. But if you have access to like Apple products, apparently it looks a lot better if it's rated on there versus other platforms. So if you feel so inclined, then go ahead. Okay, I'm done. And I will see y'all next time. I'm not going to say like I struggle, because I don't necessarily struggle with, but I'm always open to suggestions. Why the fuck is this episode so long? I'm always open to suggestions of what to talk about next. So if you have any, send them my way. I'm leaving. Bye.